because I don't know if everyone knows Peter or not, but just to do quick introductions. James, do you want to kick it off?
Sure. James Hill, former high school principal.
Hi everybody, I'm Peter. I'm Bianca Gallegos. I'm the principal at Columbine Elementary School. It's nice to see you all.
Hi there, I'm Mona McLaughlin, Director of Facilities.
Hi, Peter, Vivian from HR.
Steve Lettergan from Human Resources.
And Russ, Human Resources.
So around here. Sean Shamatero, bus driver, BVCEA president.
Peter Moritz, Boulder Westminster Uniserve unit, and I'm here in lieu of John Wetzel, who had a funeral to attend today.
April Servo, the culinary center production assistant.
Will Rosenbaum, head custodian, Keenan Masori, BVCEA treasurer.
And we are missing Rob Price today, who is sick and out of the office. And unfortunately, Dr. Laura De La Cruz's mother did pass, and so she is out of state responding to that.
And wasn't feeling well today, so she may come at the last minute, but she's not here right now.
So I'm going to turn it over to Bianca for a second. Last time we kind of did a grounding exercise, and Bianca also wanted to share some thoughts that might just help keep us going on the same page.
Okay, welcome everybody. I just wanted to honor the ground rules that we shared. It's a nice way for us to start our time together. And so I'm just going to quickly go over our shared norms that we created the first time around. And those are: one person speaks at a time, respect the time we have and stay on task, phones on silent mode. I should put mine on silent mode right now. All proposals are shared in writing, refrain from interruptions, respect for all, challenge the ideas, not people, TAs in writing and initials, be present, call caucus when needed, and start and end on time. Thank you.
Thanks, Bianca.
We'd like to add to the ground rules that all any written proposal should be honored by a written response.
So we're happy to discuss that a little bit more. We're not ready to agree to that right away because we wanted to discuss a little bit more of some of the other ground rules and the expectations. We have your proposal here, Sean, which we got off the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
We presented you one in writing, and our hope is that in the future you could present us something in writing on a piece of paper,
Okay.
and that would just kind of keep it going systematically. We do want to remind you that we're still waiting for costing of your proposal. Like, what is your estimation of the costs of your proposal? I think when we discussed that the last time, you said, well, it depends. But that's an important piece for us to understand, which is what do you believe it costs?
Okay, I thought that I gave you the numbers and you were going to run them based on information that you had internally. But yes, I can present you what I believe based on some assumptions, because COLA is hard to tell, and there are positions that haven't been reviewed, so where those positions end up will affect obviously the proposal or the costing of it.
Yeah, I think that it would be helpful to get a perspective of what you believe the costs are, and of course, we can look at it too and share our perspective of what the costs are. But I think that's an important part of this conversation.
Sure.
So that would be helpful. Also, one of the things that when we looked at, we're prepared to have some discussion about your proposal today. You know, we have met and talked about the different items, and we're prepared to engage in a conversation about some of these items and just give you a sense of some of our thoughts about it. But again, just trying to keep this process really clear and straightforward as we move forward. Our request is that if you have a proposal to change language in the negotiated agreement, like specific language, because some of these are concepts, but applying it to specific language in the negotiated agreement so that we understand what you're proposing. This language would be removed or this language would be added, I think will help us move these conversations forward.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Buzz,
Yes.
do you have a copy of?
You know what, Sean, I'm sorry, I told you I would provide you with one. Sean is looking for a copy of our proposals. Does anyone have an extra copy? If not, we can get one for you.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Sean, we got.
No worries.
Later.
I forgot to.
I also just, you know, we do have Bill Sutter here today to provide a budget update piece, but just wanted to take care of a little bit of business beforehand, just in terms of getting on the same page on how to move forward a little bit, talk about some of the dynamics. So we have 2 sessions left, and certainly our goal is to be able to successfully come to some agreements in those 2 sessions. Sean, you had mentioned the possibility of us, you and I had talked about the possibility of us putting a 3rd session as a possibility on our calendars. And so maybe we should start off with that while we're all here to just talk about a possible 3rd calendar session.
Okay.
All right. I think we'd be looking at the 1st week of May.
Yes.
And I can't speak for my team, but if you have availability, look at your calendars and we could look at a piece. And again, our hope and our goal is that we don't need the 3rd session, but we definitely want to make sure if we need it, it's available.
Can I suggest that we either keep it at the time and date, so Wednesday, 12:30 to 2:30, or move it to after 5, so our members can be present if possible.
So it looks like some of us have a other obligation on Wednesday the 4th over the same time period. But how does Thursday look for our side? In terms of I see a thumbs up from Bianca for Thursday. I'm just like a Thursday from same time, so 12:30 to 2:30 on a Thursday rather than Wednesday. So we can't do that Wednesday.
I'm not available Thursday.
Looks like there's also a conflict between HR and BVCEA. That's fine.
HR and who, sorry?
BVCEA.
Oh, so you're talking about John and his,
I mean, it says Mike. Grados, but.
Melissa.
yeah, it'd be Melissa. It would be Melissa, so.
But it's Peter's point, John.
Yeah. So, let me take a look here. So the last week of April, our last session on the books is currently on Wednesday the 27th. Another possibility would be that, on my calendar at least, would be the following Monday, which would be Monday the 2nd. Looking at my team again for Simon.
I have a doctor's appointment at 11 to 12. Well, no.
Okay.
And I just kind of want to, takes a while to get those.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we're not going to get the perfect day for everybody. And so again, Will, I know you're.
I'm good the rest of the week, it's just the Thursday.
Yeah, so we and it looks like there's a PAC meeting on Tuesday, is that something you guys have to be at?
I'm going back, but I can figure it out.
So you could do Tuesday would be a possibility with the principals and
It could be
everything?
possible.
You guys? Okay, so how about Tuesday? 12:30 to 2:30.
I guess let's put it down and
Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and we will hold Tuesday, 12:30 to 2:30. Thank you. So, Sean also wanted to just get your ideas about process and how we, some thoughts on moving forward productively and just to be able to engage in a little conversation about that, given that we have a lot of territory to cover in a short period of time.
initially we were going to respond to the district's proposal. Bill Sutter is going to speak today. I don't know if you were going to respond to our presentation from last week. And then I thought we would talk about the areas where we have the biggest disagreement on use of private sector data, the 5% plus or minus, those type of items.
Okay. We have one slide that we wanted to show today before we kind of kick things off. And so I like your ideas. Maybe we could show our slide and then following that, we could have Bill come up, give his budget update for everybody.
Yeah, we had a response to some of the budget items from last week, so I think if we could present that before Bill goes, because then I think he could respond to some of those. That's acceptable. Doesn't take very long.
Bill, what's your time look like? Okay, I see a thumbs up from Bill. So let's do this. Let us get our slide up here, and just we wanted to clarify something, and then you guys can provide your budget information, and then we'll have Bill come up and provide his budget information and perhaps provide some clarifications. And then we can move into some discussions about proposals. Okay? Sound good? All right. Yeah, let's use, let me pull it up in a second. Okay. The slide that's up here, titled History of COLA Increases, is the history of COLA increases for all four of our groups, all five of four of our groups. And the reason that we're presenting this today is because, and this is directly related to a couple things that you've said, Sean, and we just want to make sure that everyone's really clear about this. The first meeting that we had, you shared something like, while everyone else has received increases, that, administrators got big raises. And at one point you said something like 12%. And then we came back and we said, where'd you get the data? And you said you got it from governmentsalaries.com, something like that. And then we kind of indicated, well, that's not correct. And then at the last meeting, you provided clarification. You said you were not right about the dates, but when you relook at the dates prior to the pandemic, again, you made the case that administrators are getting raises while everyone else isn't, for lack of a better description. And we want to again say that is not true. And so it's really important that everybody understands that. COLA increases, for the most part, have been the same for all groups. Administrators do not get larger COLA increases than other groups. Okay, this is not a case of administrators getting raises while everybody else in the BVSD family is not. So there are some exceptions here, and I want to point this out. If you look at these years, you'll see in red there are some exceptions. So let's look at 2017, 2018. All groups got a 2.8% COLA increase except for BVCEA, and there was a reason behind that. And the reason behind that is because BVCEA, the negotiating team at the time, made a decision that they would not take the full COLA increase that was offered to them, and instead would use some of those dollars to increase longevity rates and premiums. So that was a decision that was made by the negotiation team at the time. Had that decision not been made, they would have gotten the same COLA increase as everybody else. And you can look down and see these other exceptions. BVEOP, our office group, has made some exceptions to COLA on 2 different occasions. And again, they've made those exceptions because they believe that it's in the best interest of their membership. They're making adjustments in areas of their membership that they feel are appropriate, and they've made a conscious decision to take it out of their COLA. And then we have the parent union BVPA, who 2019, 2020 created a step 10 with the money. And again, that was a conscious decision by the parent union as part of that. So I hope this clarifies it for everybody that COLA increases have been the same, with some exceptions that have been made by unions. Administrators are not getting raises that are higher percentage basis than other groups. So, thanks for the opportunity to present that. And I think, so you wanted to talk about some budget things, and then we'll see if Bill wants to come
In
up.
response to last week's presentation by the district.
Are they budget-focused items, or?
Well, part of it is, and I guess part of it is just the response to what the district presented last week.
Okay, carry on. Thanks.
So we just want to go over a few things that were presented last year on total compensation. Health insurance, the zero-cost employee-only plan. The reason these plans are zero cost next year is because of BVCEA and BVCEA fought to keep them at zero. The district was ready to add a $25 a month employee contribution to the employee-only option plans, even though over the last 2 years, the health and dental insurance fund has increased by more than $3 million, and the total expenditures, that's insurance premiums and claims to these funds, increased by less than 1% last year. PARA. All school districts in Colorado contribute to PARA. Employer contribution rates are established by state law and are determined as a percentage of member pay. It's the same for every school district in Colorado. The district's analysis, the bus driver analysis that was presented last week, so these were the numbers used in the calculation for the different districts: BVSD, Sutter, Jeffco, Adams, and St. Vrain. No insurance information was given for Sutter and Jeffco because at 20 hours they don't provide insurance, but Jeffco guarantees 30 hours to their drivers, and Sutter basically guarantees 25 or whatever amount they need for qualifying for insurance. They guarantee that. So not including them makes the analysis a little misleading. And then St. Vrain also guarantees 30 hours to their bus drivers. So even though they do have a 20-hour insurance coverage, they guarantee 30. So this isn't really a good analysis. And then, for example, here, when we're looking at employee contributions, this is taking all of the plans from the different districts. So the good plan and the bad plan, adding together and coming up with an average, versus what most people are going to do is pick the plan that costs $30 a month, that gives them the most coverage. They're not going to pick the more expensive plan unless they have certain health, issues that the other plan, covers. I did this analysis. Based on what I think employees look at when they look at a job, what's important to them, how much money do they take home in their paycheck, so their pay times their hours, less how much they contribute to their health insurance plan, and then do they have health insurance? If they get sick or injured, do they have a plan that's going to cover for those needs? So in the first example, I use BVSD. Sutter, since it's 25 hours, I left them out. Jeffco is 30 hours, I left them out. Adams has a 20-hour benefited plan. St. Vrain guarantees 30, so I left them out. And I added Westminster and Littleton. When you look at the pay rate times the hours is your subtotal. That subtotal is multiplied by PARA, Medicaid, and long-term disability to get these different amounts. And then, for example, BVSD has a zero contribution plan, so it's zero for BVSD. Adams is approximately $31. Westminster is zero, and Littleton is $49. And here are the plans. So BVSD has UMR Gold. We also have a Kaiser plan. Sutter has UC Health. Jeffco has Aetna. They also have a slightly more expensive plan under Kaiser. Adams has Kaiser. St. Vrain uses UMR Choice Plus. Westminster is Kaiser, and Littleton is Cigna. So your compensation, that's your pay plus your future benefits in PARA for BVSD employees, is $24.01. It's $5 less at Adams it's $319 more at Westminster, and it's $109 more at Littleton. At 25 hours, we add in Pooter. Jeff Cohen, St. Brainer's still not in the mix. It's $91. You make $91 less at Pooter, $1 more at Adams, $398 more at Westminster, and $148 more at Littleton. When we go to 30 hours, now we add in Jeff Cohen, St. Brain. It's $104 less at Pooter, $228 less at Jeffco. But remember, Jeffco guarantees 30 hours. So if you need the hours, you're better off working at Jeffco and getting $33.74 a month than 25 hours, which is typical at BVSD. If you want a 30-hour route as a new employee at BVSD, you're going to have to work an AM, a midday, and a PM shift. You're going to get about 6 hours for 12 hours of your time. And then Adams is about the same. St. Brain, right off the bat, St. Brain is $340 a month better than BVSD. Westminster is $478, and Littleton is $188. Another thing we don't think about or talk about much is the difference in top end pay. So teachers, they top end out really well. So does the administration. But Unit C, their top pay when they step out is a lot lower than most other districts. So step down employees in BVSD earn 100. And remember, we have 30 employees with more than 13 years of experience that are at step 12. Some have, we have many employees with over 20 years of experience that are at step 12. Adams is 116 at 25 hours a week better. Littleton is $432 an hour better. Westminster is $592, not an hour, sorry, a month better. At 30 hours, Adams is $146 better. Littleton is $529 better. St. Brain is $485 better. And Westminster is $710 better a month. If we look at custodians, custodians are typically full FTE positions. Our custodians are $25.77 better than Pooter, $768 less than Jeffco, $3,106 less than Adams, $870 better than St. Brain, $12,792 worse than Westminster, and $4,356 a year less than Littleton. And when we look at the salary maximums for those positions, we are $20,895 less than Westminster, $8,993 less than Littleton, $5,424 less than Adams, $1,493 less than Aurora, $48 less than St. Brain, $1,278 less than Jeffco, and $2,602 better than Pooter. When we talk about compensation, and we look at how Unit C compares to our teachers, 71% of BVSD teachers have a master's or better, which means they fall into MA or better. There's MA, there's MA 12, 24, 36, 48, 16, and PhD. So this is the very bottom of the pay scale for these 1,377 employees. Not even looking at benefits, just in gross pay, a BVSD over the first 10 years of their tenure is going to earn $8,820 more than Denver Public Schools, $9,248 more than Cherry Creek, and $1,755 more than Westminster. Our superintendents, I calculated their percentile. They're at the 78th percentile. which is nice, but the fact is, Mike Grottos and Rob Price have only been with the district for 5 years. And Bill Sutter and Andrew Moore are at the very top. And the only positions, if you look at salary max, I mean, every one of them makes more than the top position at Westminster, Jeffco, Adams. 3 out of 4 make more than the top position at Aurora. Andrew Moore is even with the top position at St. Vrain. They make more than the top position at Cherry Creek, Thompson, Hooter, and DPS. In just 5 years, our superintendents make more than any other district except for one. And our HR directors, Ross, Steve, and Jeannie, are all at the top of their salary schedule. So that means they make more than Westminster, Jeffco, Adams, slightly less than Aurora's best paid, less than St. Vrain, best, more than Cherry Creek, Thompson, Hooter, and DPS. The best paid positions comparable, we make more than almost everyone, and we do it quicker. Now, the district talked about 3.5% COLA this year. Well, let's look at what the 3.5% COLA looks like for a custodian. At their midpoint salary of $18.18, they're going to bring home $1,324. That's effectively a pay cut when you consider how much food, gas, more than likely a UNC employee is going to be renting. So those costs are going up astronomically. Versus a teacher, based on an $80,000 salary, is going to bring home $2,800. Our superintendents, assistant superintendents are bringing home around $7,000. And our HR directors are bringing home over $5,000. Number 4 is OHM's consulting service and the use of private sector data. So using comparable data from private sectors is a violation of the MOU, which delineates comparator school districts. The district would have been in bounds to deny such efforts from former BVCEA lead negotiators, but elected not to. Do not fault BVCEA for abiding by the one thing the parties have in writing to govern this conversation about compensation. The use of the plus or minus 5% margin. The margin of error, plus or minus 5%, is not in writing, but is used to determine salaries. It is arguably the most damaging component of this process. The 75th percentile is defined as the third or upper quartile. The 75th percentile is the value at which 25% of the data points lie above the value and 75% of the data points lie below the value. So if you've seen this several times, the green line again is the 75th percentile. The blue line is BVSD's average salaries. The difference between the two is about 2.5 lines, or $2,500 per employee. That's over $1.4 million a year, more than $3.1 million in the last 3 years below the 75th percentile. Now, if we look at where we are percentile-wise, this is what it looks like. The 75th percentile is up here. BVCEA employees are all over the place, but at the low end, we're below the 40th percentile, and at the top end, we're at the 60th percentile. This is nowhere close to the 75th percentile, which is what the district says is the target for BVCEA employees. And it's nowhere close to the 90 to 100 percentile that the teachers and the administration are paid. Now, Peter would like to present really quick, and then I'm going to go through the district's proposal to us, item by item.
Don't worry, this will be quick.
What do you want to try? Here, I'm not happy.
Sure.
I don't know if the letter changed. I have the original.
Okay. Let me get this.
Oh, sorry. I got it. Sent that to me.
I did. So,
Oh, okay. Camilla?
let's try this one. There we go. Okay, we're good. Okay, I didn't like that version, so you're going to get the un-slideshow version. So we had a couple of responses to some of the comments from last week that the district made on financial data. You'll recall that these were statements. They weren't done without any. They were done without any data or references. So we're going to provide the data. So first statement. State school finance law does not allow districts to generate more than the School Finance Act dictates on a per pupil basis. So I did connect with CEA's legal staff and legal counsel on this, so this isn't just me making this up, and I'll reference that a little bit later. However, this statement is misleading because per pupil funding is merely one component of the district's total program. The total program is determined by multiplying the funded pupil count by total per pupil funding, then adding at-risk funding, online funding, and the budget stabilization factor. The School Finance Act authorizes school districts to raise and spend local property tax revenue in excess of the district's total program. And for context or data, right, we're going to look at the Colorado revised statutes, including 22-54-107.5, which authorizes additional local revenues for supplemental costs of living adjustment. 22-54-108, which authorizes additional local revenues. 22-54-108.5, which is authorization of additional local revenues for full-day kindergarten. And 22-54-108.7, which is the authorization of additional local revenues for capital construction, new technology, existing technology upgrades, and maintenance. The district also mentioned that, this is a direct quote, "It is a misrepresentation that school districts with increasing property values generate additional revenue that is over and above the amount allowed in the School Finance Act." This is incorrect. As stated, the School Finance Act does not limit property tax revenue, but it may increase or decrease state equalization based on that revenue. We'll see some examples of that here in a moment. As you can see from the data, let me go ahead and bring that up right now. All right, so this is an analysis of the comprehensive financial audit from each year from BVSD from 2012 to 2021. So as you can see, and this comes from page 138, 139 of the CAFR, as it's commonly known. Since 2012, both property taxes and specific ownership taxes have grown substantially, 67%. While state equalization has decreased slightly, down 13%, it's of note if you're looking at the state equalization, there was a pretty big dip in 2021 by over $11 million. However, that was offset, if you look under federal grants, by all of the COVID relief that came through multiple acts of Congress, by a $20 million increase in those federal grants. As you probably are also aware, for the 2020-2023 school year, state funding is set to grow for education by 11.7%, and we're actually going to have the smallest budget stabilization factor in 12 years. The district also talked about unassigned fund balance, stating unassigned fund balance is an accounting term that means little with regards to district decisions on spending. The BVSD Board of Education can assign fund balance to different purposes and reduce the unassigned portion. As a district, we have chosen not to play games with this nuanced accounting terminology and be more transparent. Unassigned reserves present an excellent snapshot of overall financial health. It's true, what you mentioned. The district could split reserves up into different categories, as some districts tend to do, but then one could simply just add them all up to come to the same number. Regardless, BVSD's unassigned fund balance sits at $63 million. The fact that the unassigned fund balance has grown so substantially over the last 10 years may induce taxpayers to question whether the district actually requires the tax dollars being assessed. Unassigned reserves have grown an astounding 121% between 2018 and 2021. And again, this is in the audit, page 136 and 137. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the district raised the financial alarm, and yet reserves grew from $39.3 million to $62.9 million. This demonstrates that BVSD comes out of the pandemic even better situated to compensate its employees exceptionally well. Given the extraordinary inflation and staggering housing crisis, this is what BVSD educators deserve. And just a little more information on this. I mean, this is not, I cited the Colorado Revised Statutes, all of the page numbers that are in the audit. Since the fall, BVCEA, along with BVPA, have had the services of Dr. Sarah Siegel. Her expertise in combing through these and her knowledge of empirical data is very helpful. She also did send a letter to the board with this information, I think this afternoon. We also consulted with Eric Bradbury, one of our many fine legal counsel at CEA. As you probably know already, we're very lucky to have Sean, who's a former PricewaterhouseCoopers CPA. And John, who couldn't be here, you probably will recall though his presentation during BVA's negotiations last year, very, very comprehensive. I urge you to look at it. Really shows the case for how local sources have dwarfed state sources, particularly over the last 10 years. And then there's me. I don't have any of the experience of those folks, but I did first get into negotiations for this reason. Been doing it for about 10 years. That being said, we have someone in the audience who's even more of an expert. Of course, that's Bill Sutter. We did go over your presentation last night, which we appreciated. One question that we have from that is the anticipated growth of property taxes to be only 1.5 million. We believe that that number will be substantially greater, given that things were held in advance during the pandemic. And so we're expecting, I believe the term the district used last week, that we thought there was a windfall. I'm not saying it's going to be a windfall, but we do believe it's going to be a significant amount of revenue that will be reflected in the audits for 2022 and 2023.
In response to the district's negotiated proposal, number one, move all Unit C positions that have been demonstrated by Owens Consulting Services in their current market study to be outside the 75th percentile range into the 75th percentile range using BVSD's existing practices, OCS data market plus or minus 5%. There's no agreement on this item. Moving employees back into range does not get them to the 75th percentile and still leaves many more positions well below the 75th percentile. The teachers in admin are the best paid in the state. Why is there such a disparity between the way one group is treated versus another? This is not equitable. Number two, provide step increases for all eligible Unit C employees. This is not a proposal. It already exists in our agreement. Number three, provide a 3.5% COLA to all Unit C employees. There is no agreement on this item. A 3.5% COLA is effectively a pay cut for Unit C employees in the current market environment. It also increases the gap between low and high income earners. In a district that preaches equity, this is not equitable. Number four, update Article 4 negotiation procedures by removing and group insurance as shown. BVCEA rejects this item. The Benefits Committee is not a functioning committee. We've met only twice this calendar year. Has no decision-making power. It's an advisory committee, nothing more. Number five, increase the mechanic tool allowance each year based on average inflation rates as determined by the inflationary calculation in Article X section of the state's constitution. BVCEA agrees in principle with this item. We just need clarification. How do we treat it? Do we treat it like the stipends are treated where they go up based on cost of living? And that's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bill, if you're ready, we'll bring Bill up on the exterior channel.
You're gonna plug in?
Yes.
My job to the chair. It's okay, I got you.
Oh, that's all right. You two can sit on it. You go better.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Sutter. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the district. I've been working in Boulder Valley for, I think this is my 25th year. I'm in my 25th year, so long-time employee of the district. If you sat through the 45 minutes of this last night, you're probably going to be a little bored because this is going to be the exact same presentation as last night. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that I can and clarify any points. So these are the pieces that I'll walk through: budget development timeline, the input that we've received, enrollment, preliminary budget, and the next steps. So this timeline and milestones, the big bright red line is where we are in this process. This is a many-month process with lots of information that comes into the district to develop the budget and then ultimately have the board adopt it. Highlighting the last few pieces that are left to go I did present the preliminary budget to the board last night. We do have the General Assembly, the legislature still doing their magic down in Denver, and their ability to provide additional things for us to do without any additional funding. Then quarterly financials, proposed budget to the board at the end of May, and then budget adoption in June. So the input that has been received along the way, again, over many months of collecting this: employee recognition and compensation, strategic initiative investments, addressing achievement gaps, opportunity gaps, and disproportionality, and certainly inflation. So as we go through this process, we meet with many different groups, many different stakeholder groups, and then I just noted for the board that we have had 16 different topics at 11 different school board meetings and work sessions where we review various parts of the district strategic plan to remind the board of the things that we talk about. And these are just some of those dates and things that were referenced. This attachment is on the board agenda item from last night, so if anybody wants it, they can go out to the board docs board website and get it. Enrollment, we also had last night an update on our declining enrollment and what the district will do to address that going forward. We are projecting a drop of a little over 200 students again for next year. We are in that sort of trajectory of about 200 students per year loss going forward into the future. This is after a relatively steep decline and slight recovery with the pandemic, but we are in a place where we are graduating out larger classes than we are bringing in with kindergartners. So for the preliminary budget, I'll spend most of the time on the general operating fund, as that's where most of the activities occur, where the spending occurs, and then some other funds. These are accounting funds, and then next steps. So the net per pupil revenue change, this is this 3.5% inflation with a negative factor reduction. The 25% mill levy override, growing by that index to total program. Categorical funding, so this increases by 3.5%, that inflation rate that is determined by Article 10, Section 20 is otherwise known as the Tabor Amendment, so that's where that comes from. Categorical funding for special education, there was $80 million placed statewide into the School Finance Act, and so that is flowing into the district as well. We have a little projected decrease in specific ownership tax, which is car registrations, and then some other miscellaneous revenues that are an offset to an expenditure reduction for the ROM. Charter schools were legally and contractually obligated to provide charter schools their increase in School Finance Act funding. We have an increase to our bus replacement program. So this is to make sure that we have newer, safer, more fuel-efficient buses on the road. Food service funds, this is inflation for food costs and supplies going into next year. Also, an expected slight decline in participation as the free lunch program that has been in place for a couple of years now is most likely to go away with reduction in federal funding. And then the preschool fund, this says zero because there's a offsetting increase in per pupil revenue and then a decrease in the general fund. Then we have compensation built in, 3.5% COLA for all employees, movement on salary schedules for all employees, the health and dental premium increase, 3.5%, the employer rate para increase, 1.3 million, This is a result of a decision by the para board to change actuarial determination within what the projected costs are for para and how underfunded it is. So this is an increase to the employer rate. And then we have a line item in here for 75th percentile adjustments for all employee groups to meet those obligations. On the expenditure side, outside of compensation, so we have staffing formulas. So these are classroom teachers, paraeducators. So as we are projecting that decline in enrollment, we reduce the number of staff that are within our staffing formulas. We have some additional student supports. This is para time for intensive learning centers, some nursing support, and mental health advocates. Restructuring and expansion of the equity department, the Family and Educators Together team is what FET stands for, and then an expansion through a teacher on special assignment. We have to add a staff member because of the number of core requests that we get as a district and our inability to keep up with those in the statutorial required time. Grad Plus implementation, so this is a district initiative to improve outcomes for students. So this is work-based learning coordinator and some CTE, career and technical ed support there. Online math accelerators, this is a teacher to provide accelerated math programs for, say, 5th grade and 6th grade maybe. I don't remember the details of that exactly. Sub-teachers, an increase in the sub-teacher pay rate. Health services, so we have our Medicaid funds are dwindling, and so this is a transition off of Medicaid funds and onto the general fund. Operational costs, so utilities and maintenance materials, inflation that we're experiencing on that. Software, contracted inflation increases there. Floater positions, so this is 8 FTE to support vacancies and vacations and things. I believe this is a result of the MOU work between the district and BVCEA. And then this revenue reduction offset is just an offset to the revenue that's taken out on the top side. So total 1.5 million additional budget adjustments on the expenditure side. So this is a little summary, revenue coming in, both PPR, mill levy, and then the ongoing balance that's currently available in the district budget. Largely going to compensation, a little bit to budget adjustments, and some of the transfers as required by contracts. And so we're a little upside down at the moment. This is not a concerning place to be at this point in time, but essentially this is the preliminary budget, and this is the place to start. One-time expenditures, so we do have the ability to spend those one-time dollars on one-time uses, so we do not create an obligation that is ongoing and is actually defined in state statute that you have to say what you're spending money on if it's over and above what your revenues are, and how that will not lead to an ongoing deficit. Staffing reserve, so this is to address enrollment inefficiencies as we have declining enrollment and multiple small schools. Students don't come in six-packs, therefore they don't fill up classrooms in nice even numbers, so sometimes we have inefficient staffing that needs to be addressed. Some K-5 targeted student support, so this is to address classroom teachers with higher need students. FOSS kits, these are, I don't know if anybody's seen those black and white boxes for the science curriculum. Temporary sub-teacher rates, so this is again a potential if we run into the same problem that we have had with temps or sub-teachers. literacy intervention pilot program for virtual literacy intervention. CTE program startup, so this is some teacher FTE, and then also these Grad Plus coordinators and post-secondary success coordinator. This is a commitment over 3 years to ramp the program up for career and technical education, with the idea that this would transition into the existing regular staff